So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala sayyidil mursaleen, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallim tasliman kathira. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا واجعل العلم حجة لنا لا حجة علينا آمين. So we are continuing the talk about the Maliki Fiqh, and we are in the section regarding the conditions of prayer, the preconditions of prayer. Condition that you need to make sure that they are met before you start the prayer. So let's go ahead and start. Go ahead. Bismillah, Majid, Fadal.
Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah. Yaqulu al-muallif rahimahullah wa nafa'ana bi'ulumihi wa ulumikum. Faslun fi shurut as-salah. Taharatul hadath wa qad taqaddamat. وطهارة الخبث وهي الصلاة ببدن طاهر ومحمول طاهر وفي محل طاهر وهو ما تمسه أعضاء المصلي فإن صلى بالنجاسة عامدا قادرا بطلت.
So he said section or chapter on the conditions of the prayer of Salah, and he started by saying that the conditions of the prayer are purification from hadath. And we have seen at the beginning the difference between hadath and khabath. Hadath is a symbolic impurity that you have to clean yourself from before the prayer is valid. So he said that the condition of prayer is purity from hadath, and it was previously discussed. And another condition is taharatul khabas, which is purity from the khabas, and khabas is impurity, physical impurity, we can say that, or material impurity that you can see, feels, that najasa that you can see is not only symbolic. And this means that praying with purity of body. When we say that purity of khabas, it means that your body should be pure from any najasa. It should not have a najasa on it. And your clothes also should be pure from najasa, from the khabas. And anything that you carry should be also pure. And we have seen that the skin of dead animals that were not slaughtered were impure according to the Maliki. So if you are praying with a wallet or a belt, you have a belt on, and you don't know if that animal that the leather belongs to was not slaughtered, it will not be pure. So your prayer, if you knowingly pray with that, your prayer will not be valid. But fortunately for other madhahib, any skin that is stained is pure. So things that you carry should be pure. Somebody is carrying a barrel of, let's say that blood, for some reason, a bag of blood. That person is a physician and has a bag of blood in his pocket. That prayer is not valid. Same thing, you're praying, may Allah forbid, with alcohol in your hand, for example. And anything, the place of prayer also should be pure. It should not be have najasa. And he explained by saying that the place is what the limbs of the prayer, the person who is praying touches. What one of your limbs touches during your prayer, that's the prayer place. And that's very important. I remember a few years ago, in the masjid here, when the Eid prayer was held in a center, and there were some pictures of alcohol, beer on the wall. Some people made it a big deal, and some people even objected to pray, saying that no, prayer is not valid here. But what I explained that no, the picture of alcohol is not alcohol. And even if that was alcohol, as long as your limbs do not touch this najasa, your prayer is valid. So if you have najasa between your legs or on the floor between your legs, but none of your feet or your limb touch that najasa, as the Sheikh mentioned here, that's not najis. Your place is still pure as long as you're not making sujood on that place of najasa. So, and he says that if somebody pray carrying najasa intentionally, you have najasa carrying intentionally, and with the ability to get rid of it, but you did not, your prayer is not valid. Go ahead, Maria.
وذكرها في الصلاة مبطل إن اتسع الوقت وقدر على رفعها، وإن لم يذكر إلا بعد أن سلم أو عجز عن رفعها أعادها ندبا إذا قدر في الظهرين ما لم تصفر الشمس وفي العشاءين والصبح ما لم يطلع الفجر أو الشمس.
So he said that let's say that you have najasa and you did not know about it, you forgot, but you have najasa in your pocket and you were praying. So if you remember that in your prayer and that you have najasa, or your clothes is najis, or you're carrying najasa, and you are able to get rid of that najasa, but you remember in your prayer. Let's say that you remember, but your prayer, you have time for the prayer time. You are able, if you stop your prayer and get rid of the najasa, the prayer time is still there. You will not miss the prayer time. So if this is the case, your prayer is not valid. You have to stop your prayer, get rid of the najasa, and start to pray again. But if you remember about carrying najasa, or one of your clothes has some najasa in it, and you don't remember that, you're praying and you did not remember, when you finished your prayer and you remember that, oh, I had najasa in my pocket, or my clothes was najis, or you remember but you are not able to get rid of that najasa. For example, you're sick, you're not able to change your clothes. During your prayer, when you remember that you have to redo your prayer, it's recommended that you redo your prayer. Your prayer is not invalid, but it is recommended that you do it if you can do it within the time frame of your prayer. And this is for Zuhur and Asr, till as long as you can do it before the yellowness of the sun, right before sunset. Before the time of Maghrib come, it is recommended that you redo your prayer. And for Isha, same is true. If that is the case before Fajr, before the Fajr come, right before the Fajr come, or that will be the time frame where it is recommended that you redo your prayer for Maghrib and Isha right before Fajr time come. Same thing for Fajr, Subah. You pray Subah, and you remember that you have najasa in it, but you have time to pray, to get rid of your najasa and make your prayer right before the sun rises. Here it is recommended that you do that. Go ahead, Majid.
ومن رعف في الصلاة وظن استغراقه الوقت تمادى وإلا لا، فإن رشح فتله بأنامل اليسرى العليا ثم في الوسطى فإن زاد فيها على الدرهم أو قطر أو سال قطع وله البناء بشروط تطلب في المطولات.
So you're praying and you have a bloody nose, blood start to come from your nose, and you think that it will continue the entire amount of the prayer time. Let's say that I'm praying Asr, and I feel that blood is coming from my nose, but I'm aware of that. I know that it will not stop till Maghrib. In this case, there's no point for me to end my prayer and start to do something. What I do is just I continue my prayer. But if I know that it will not continue the entire time, in this case, I try to wipe the blood from my nose with my index, left index. And if it did not stop, I try again with the middle finger to wipe my nose. But if the blood reaches more than the size of, I would say, a quarter or a dirham, let's say a dirham, or the middle of your palm. If you reach that size, or it start to drip, in this case, I stop my prayer, I end my prayer. But I have the option here to build on my prayer, and that's called al-bina. I can do the bina, build on my prayer, according to some conditions that the Sheikh did not mention. And bina is that, let's say that blood is coming out of my nose and it start to drip, and I stop. Blood start to come during the second rakah or the third rakah. I finished my second rakah, sitting my tashahhud, and stood up for the third rakah, and the blood start to come out of my nose. I use the method. I use my index to wipe it, my middle finger to wipe it, and it did not stop. It started dripping. Here, I have the option of making the bina, which means that I can walk away to clean myself and come and pick up where I stop my prayer. I don't have to start from the beginning if I met the conditions of building up my prayer, which is bina. So let's say that I followed those conditions, I cleaned myself, and I came back. I start where I stopped from the third rakah and finish my prayer. I don't start from the beginning. And the condition of the bina that he did not mention here, I think that there are 5 conditions. One of them that is, if I remember all of them, for example, going to clean yourself, you shouldn't be facing the Qiblah. So if the Qiblah, you need to walk backward to the place of water and clean yourself without turning away from the Qiblah. If you turn away from the Qiblah, you cannot build up on what was already prayed. So that's one of the conditions. Another condition is that you need to, you cannot pass a close point of water to a farther point of water. Let's say that the wudu place is at just at the beginning of the entrance of the musalla, the prayer area, and you pass that entrance and you went out to a place that is far to make to clean yourself. This breaks your ability to build upon what was. And during that also, you should not talk. That's another condition. If you talk by even out of forgetfulness, you can build on. And I forgot the other condition, but there are some conditions for you to be able to build up on your prayer. Go ahead, Majid.
فصل في ستر العورة.
So it's a section in covering the nakedness. So that's also a precondition of prayer, or a condition of prayer, that you need to be properly covered in your prayer.
قال يجب على الرجل والأمة ستر ما بين السرة والركبة بكثيف، وتبطل صلاة الرجل بكشف السوأتين، والأمة بهما وبالأليتين، ويعيد الرجل في الوقت للإليتين والأمة للفخذين.
So it said that it is incumbent on a man and hold on a second. Hold on a second. Sorry for that. So it said that it is an obligation on a man and a bound woman, a slave girl, to cover between the navel and the knees with something that is thick. And the prayer will not be valid if part of the genital of the man is uncovered. So the private part, and as it translated here, the back also of a man, if that is uncovered between the buttocks, if that part is uncovered, your prayer is not valid. And for a slave girl is also the same thing, but with the buttocks included. That will invalidate the prayer. And the man will have to redo his prayer within the time, when he has time to redo the prayer, if his buttocks are uncovered during the prayer. And for the slave girl, if her thighs are uncovered in a prayer, and there's a time for her to redo the prayer without the time being expired, they have to redo that. But if the time is tight, they cannot do the prayer within that time, they don't have to redo it. Go ahead, Majid.
ويجب على الحرة ستر جميع بدنها وشعرها إلا الوجه والكفين وبطون القدمين، وتبطل صلاتها بكشف ما بين ركبتيها إلى صدرها، وتعيد لغير ذلك في الوقت.
So for a free woman, which are all women in modern days, it is incumbent upon her to cover the entire body and the hair. And this excludes only the face. The face, she's not obligated to cover the face in the prayer, or the hands, and the bottom of the feet, the soles of the feet. Here, she doesn't cover them, but other than that, she must cover it in prayer. And her prayer is not valid if what is supposed to be covered is exposed, and if what is between the knees and her knees and her chest is uncovered, a prayer is not valid. But for exposing other than that, let's say that under her knees or her arms in the prayer, if she exposed that, she will repeat the prayer when there is enough time. If the time allow her to repeat a prayer without the prayer time being expired. Other than that, she doesn't have to repeat it.
ومن عنده ثوب حرير وثوب متنجس يقدم الحرير فإن لم يجد إلا المتنجس ولم يقدر على غسله صلى به.
So if you are in a situation where you have a silk garment, a clothes made out of silk, and another cloth that has najasa on it. So which one should you pray in it? It is not permissible to wear silk, but also praying with najasa intentionally, knowingly invalidate your prayer. So you have two bad options. Which one should you go with? So it says that you give priority to the silk garment. It's okay in this case, to pray in silk. If you cannot find anything but the filthy garment. But if you are in a situation that you have clothes with najasa and you're not able to get rid of that najasa, you're not able to wash it or find another clothes, it is better to pray with the clothes that has najasa than praying without clothes. Go ahead.
فصل في الاستقبال. قال من شروط صحة الصلاة استقبال القبلة وهي عين الكعبة لمن بمكة وجهتها لمن كان خارجا عنها ومن تحرى وصلى فإن تبين خطأه بعدها أعاد في الوقت ندبا كمن نسي جهتها.
So he says that the condition of prayer also is to face the Qiblah. And when you are in Mecca, facing the Qiblah has to be very strict and right on point. You face the exact Kaaba if you are in Mecca. You have no excuse that your direction will be a little bit off. You have to make sure that the direction is exact to the Kaaba if you live in Mecca or you are staying in Mecca. But if you are not in Mecca, what is required is not the exact point of the Kaaba, but the direction of the Kaaba. So if you here, for example, we pray to the direction of the Kaaba, and the direction of the Kaaba is northeast for us. So northeast, do we have to be sure that if there's a straight line between us and Mecca, it will go exactly to the building of the Kaaba? No, because our requirement is only the direction. And then he says that if you are in a situation that you don't know exactly where the direction of the Kaaba is, and you use an effort to reach that point, and you pray according to what you think is the direction of the Kaaba, and then after your prayer, you realize that I was off. I did not pray to the direction of the Kaaba. You redo your prayer if there's enough time for you to redo that, if there's time before the time of prayer expired. Let's say that I did that 20 minutes before sunset, and I took 10 minutes to pray. And after that, I realized that I was off. I still have 10 minutes to do my prayer before sunset. Here, it is recommended that I redo my prayer. It's not an obligation, which means that if I don't do it, my prayer is valid, but it is recommended. It's better for me to redo my prayer. Now, when I finish my prayer, and there was only 3 minutes left before sunset. Here, I don't have time to redo my prayer, even if I'm off. It is not recommended for me to redo my prayer because there's no time. And same thing for a person who forgot the direction and remember after he prayed. Go ahead, Majid.
وإن تبين خطأه في حال الصلاة فالأعمى والمنحرف يسيرا يعتدلان إليها ويتمان، والبصير والمنحرف كثيرا يبتدئها. واعلم أنه إن كانت الكعبة عندك مثلا في المغيب فانحرافك يمينا إلى قرب الأيوق أو يسارا إلى قرب العقرب من اليسير.
So he said that if when I was praying, I use an effort to try to find the right direction of the Qiblah, and then during my prayer, I remember that I was off within the prayer. It was not after the prayer. In this case, if a person was blind, for example, and did not know and used his effort to know, we will turn off. It will turn to correct you. You correct your direction in your prayer. In your prayer, and you continue your prayer. If that person was blind, or if you were off a little bit. But for a person who is not blind and you realize that you were off by a lot, not by a little, and somebody come and corrected you, or you remember, you just realize that you were off, you turn and correct it. You don't turn and correct it. You start over your prayer. Now, how do you know that you are off by a lot or you are off by little? He said that, let's say that I was praying and the Kaaba is for me toward the west when the sun is setting. But again, this description that he gave is relevant to some particular cases where you are in this situation. So if the Kaaba is toward the west, and then here you realize that you are off by the direction. Let's say that you turn toward what they call al-ayuq. Ayuq is capilla, is a star, next to the Pleiades constellation, what they call Soraya. You turn a little bit toward that, or you turn a little bit toward the constellation of the Scorpios. All these are stars when people used to know them. Now we don't know that, so it's not really relevant for us. But the idea is that if you are off and you realize in your prayer that you are off, if you're off by a lot, you start over. But if you're a lot by a little, you build upon, you correct your direction, and you build upon what was already prayed. So in modern days, you can say that, let's say that you are, since we are not in Mecca, our direction is toward, let's say that our direction of the Mecca was east. And then I realized that I was praying northeast. Here, I'm not off a lot. I'm not off by a whole direction. So I just, my prayer is okay. But if the Kaaba, the Makkah is on east, and I was praying toward north, or I was praying toward west or south, that's being off by a lot. And this is, it will be applicable what was mentioned earlier. So go ahead, Majid.
فصل في فرائض الصلاة وسننها ومندوباتها.
So this section is for the obligation of the prayer and the sunan of the prayer.
فرائض الصلاة النية المعينة عند تكبيرة الإحرام ملاحظا ندبا الأداء أو القضاء، وعدد الركعات وتكبيرة الإحرام والقيام لها، والفاتحة والقيام لها، وركوع تقرب راحتاه فيه من ركبتيه، ورفع منه.
So it will mention the pillars and the obligational acts in the prayer, acts that if you miss them, your prayer is not valid, so because they are fard. So it will mention that, and it will mention also the sunan of prayer, acts that if you don't do them in your prayer is valid, but they're not perfect, and act that it is recommended to have them in your prayer. So for the obligational act of the prayer, the first obligational act is intention, because you're going to pray without intention. You have to make the intention at the time of the takbiratul ihram. The takbiratul ihram is the Allahu Akbar that you do to enter the prayer. That's takbiratul ihram. It brings you into prayer and forbid everything that is not part of the prayer, forbid you from doing anything that's not part of the prayer. So that's the first obligational act. But during your intention, you need to be mindful of, it is recommended that you are mindful of what you're doing. So you're mindful that you are praying an actual prayer, or you are making up a past prayer. You need to have that in mind during the intention, and you have to have in mind also the numbers of raka'at during your intention. And all these are just comes automatically. You don't even have to think about it. If you pray, you're accustomed to prayer, they come with you. And the intention is an intention by heart. It is not something that you say. And then after the intention, the takbiratul ihram, the first Allahu Akbar, is an obligational act of the prayer. If you don't do it, your prayer is not valid. And for the Maliki and the Hanbali, it has to be with this word, this wording, Allahu Akbar. You cannot say Allahul Akbar. You cannot put alif wa lam on al Akbar in the Maliki, or you cannot say Allahu A'zam and start your prayer. For the Shafi'i, it's you can say Allahul Akbar. You can put an alif wa lam on. If you put an alif lam on the Akbar, your prayer is still valid. For the Maliki, is not valid. For the Hanafi, you can start your prayer with any dhikr that invoke the greatness of Allah. So you can say Allahu A'zam, or Allahu Ajal, or Ar-Rahmanu Akbar to start your prayer, and your prayer will be valid. But here for the Maliki, no, it will not be valid. It has to be this expression, Allahu Akbar. And then you have to be standing while saying Allahu Akbar. You cannot be, and that people do that without realizing. I come, for example, and I find that the Imam is in the ruku, and I want to join the Imam before he raises his head. So I say Allahu, I join the Imam in the ruku, and I say Allahu Akbar while I am in the ruku. Here my prayer is not valid, because the takbirat ihram has to be said in the situation of standing, in the case of while I'm standing, not while I'm making ruku. So that's something that is very important, and it's common. People make that mistake commonly. It's important to be mindful of. So the takbirat ihram has to be while I'm standing, and that's also an obligation. And then another obligation is reciting the Fatiha. Reciting the Fatiha is a fard for the Maliki and for the Maliki, and also for the Shafi and the Hanbali. For the Hanafi, reciting Allahu Akbar is not an obligation. So if you don't recite your Fatiha, your prayer is valid as long as you recite some part of the prayer. And then the Fatiha has to be recited while standing, unless if you came, and this obligation of Fatiha and standing for the Fatiha will not be required, will be waived if you come and you found that your imam is in the ruku. Here you join the imam in the ruku, and then the Fatiha and the standing are waived. And then another obligation of prayer is ruku, to make your ruku. And in your ruku, your palms has to be close to your knees. And then another obligation is to raise your head from ruku. So you cannot go to sujood from ruku. This will invalidate your prayer. Go ahead, Majid.
قال وسجود يضع فيه جزءا من جبهته على أرض أو ثابت متصل بها ويعيد لترك الأنف في الوقت ورفع منه والسلام المعرف بالألف واللام من جلوس وفي شرط نية الخروج به من الصلاة خلاف والطمأنينة والاعتدال في الأركان والترتيب بأن يقرأ الفاتحة قبل الركوع وهو قبل السجود وهكذا.
So another obligation is making sujood, and your sujood has to have part of your forehead touching the ground, the earth directly, or anything that is stable that is connected with the ground, the earth, like a prayer rug or a table you're praying on top of a table that's connected to the ground. Other than that, your sujood is not valid, your prayer is not valid. And then you have to redo your prayer if your nose did not touch the ground in your sujood, if you have enough time to redo it, fil waqt. If there's no time, you don't redo it. But if there's time, you have to redo it if your nose did not touch the ground. And raising from your sujood is another obligation of prayer. And another obligation is to say assalamu alaikum. The assalamu alaikum has to have alif wa lam. You cannot say assalamu alaikum only. You have to say assalamu alaikum. And to this assalamu alaikum has to be given while you are sitting. And there's a debate: should you have intention in making your salam to get after your prayer or not? Some say that you have to have that intention, and others say that you don't have, so it's not a big deal. For the Hanafi, the saying assalamu alaikum to get out of the prayer is not an obligation. So as long as you have sat for the tashahhud and recite part of your tashahhud, your prayer is concluded. Let's say that somebody broke his wudu at this point, his prayer is valid because he has concluded the prayer, his prayer for the Hanafi. But for the Maliki, in this case, no, the salam is part. The salam is the last requirement in your prayer, so you have to bring it. If you don't bring it and your wudu is broken before that, your prayer is not valid. And if you don't bring the salam, your prayer is not valid. Another condition is tumanina, stillness. You have to let all part of your body rest at any stage and movement of your prayer. When you make your ruku has to come to a point. This is like going to a stop sign. If you're driving your car and you have to a stop sign, you have to give a full stop to the stop sign, at the stop sign. You cannot just roll the car a small stop and go. If the police officer, it will give you a ticket for that. So same thing for your prayer. When you make your ruku has to come to a full stop. Your body is still at the ruku. It's not just a ruku, go to the ruku and go out again, go back again. So tumanina is a fard, And then i'tidal also, straight, being standing straight. When you start to stand from your ruku, you have to start to stand straight, not bend a little bit. Your standing has to be straight. That's also a fard. And then you have to follow the order of reciting the Fatiha before your ruku. You cannot recite the Fatiha after ruku. Following that order is an obligation. If you reverse the order, your prayer is not valid. And your ruku has to be before your sujood. If you make your sujood before your ruku, your prayer is not valid. So here, that's the sujood of prayer, is not the sujood of sahu, or the sujood tilawa. Go ahead, Majid. Okay, so I think that's the end.
Yeah, this is the end of the obligations.
Okay, so yeah, we stop here. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. نستغفرك ونتوب إليك وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تحول به بيننا وبين معاصيك، ومن طاعتك ما تبلغنا به جنتك، ومن اليقين ما تهون به علينا مصائب الدنيا. اللهم متعنا بأسماعنا وبصارنا وقواتنا ما أحييتنا، واجعله الوارث منا، واجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا، وانصرنا على من عادانا، ولا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا، ولا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا، ولا تسلط علينا من لا يرحمنا. آمين. So inshallah, I'll stop here unless there are questions. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك.